Sober on Purpose is the podcast that takes you beyond clean to fulfilling your dreams. Other programs get you sober. We ask what's next. Come thrive with us.
Welcome to Sober on Purpose, Mrs. Zipporah Monique. I love the name. It's fantastic. And maybe in the process, you can tell us what it means, because I've been wondering about that for a little while. And I went on a journey to find out more about what queen meant. And your book, Crowned, came up. And it's Unleashing the Queen Within, a journey of overcoming emotional trauma, embracing self-confidence, and this part I love, evolving into a queen. And you were kind enough to say, yep, I'm ready to jump up on a podcast with you. So tell us a little bit about how you got to writing the book.
Absolutely. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me here. And I'm so happy that you even searched the term queen, right? What got me started into writing the book is because I felt like I had some secrets that I needed to share with the world, essentially. I, coming from a single parent home, or a home that I would like to say that I was always thirsty for love or thirsty for validation. Some of those things, some of that worthiness on the inside doesn't come natural, right? So you have to kind of fight for it and figure out where your validation comes from. And with that, it's failure, because you search for validation outside of, we start searching for validation outside of ourselves, and then material things and intangible things. But essentially it's from within, right? That's why it's called Crown, Unleashing the Queen Within, is because you have everything that you need from day one. You were fully equipped since birth to really serve the world and really live the most authentic self. It's just some of these things that we learn over time. It really puts us into this box and puts us into the cage, to where we're scared of being ourselves and scared of being who we are. And that's exactly where I had to look at myself in the mirror and saying, hey, do you even appreciate who you are? Do you even feel like you're worthy? Do you even see yourself as God sees you? And once I understood, or I got super close to seeing myself as God saw me, rather than the mistakes, rather than the failures, rather than the horrible experiences that I had, that's when I knew I was ready to write a book.
Wow. I mean, a book is such a huge undertaking, and to step out and to tell these stories, to tell some very personal stories. One of the things that you said just now about the light coming from within, you use a quote from Maya Angelou that says, "Nothing can dim the light of which shines from within." How did you get there? How did you struggle through? The world tells us we need to look like this, or we need to weigh this, or we need to be with this person. How did you get to the inner light?
Such a good question. So thank you for that. Fighting really hard, right? Like, I think that one thing that I learned of getting to the inner light is really that I had to embrace my darkness. And a lot of us, we don't want to focus on our darkness. We really want to just sit it over to the side and think, yeah, that's just part of me, but we're just gonna go over it. I think I really had to embrace everything, all of Zipporah, all of myself, the light and the dark. And even in that quote, it's unleashing your light, right? This little light of mine is gonna shine, just all of the above. Even Martin Luther King has a quote to where with darkness you can only bring out light or love, in regards to when darkness tries to overtake you. And I didn't say that verbatim, but he does have a quote like that. But in that, it was failure after failure, right? And I had to really look at myself in the mirror and say, Zipporah, what do you want for yourself? How do you want to serve? How do you want to serve God? How do you want to serve people? Because essentially this life is not about us, right? That's what I had to learn. It's not about me. It's not about my wants. It's not about my desires. It's what I was placed here. It's the purpose. and I don't want to be like, oh, this is, this super, super, super purpose, but living my most favorite self, right? A lot of people say that your most highest version and things of that nature. No, what's my most favorite self, right? We're exposed to different things, and it's like, well, how am I going to let my light shine? How am I going to let my quirk shine? How am I going to let my failure shine? How am I going to learn from all of these different things? And I think once you embrace yourself in that way, that is the way that you can shine your light. I was living in darkness for so long. I didn't know that it was possible for my light to shine. But once I caught a glimpse of it, or once I started honestly reading my Bible and really seeing, the promises from God, and the promises, and the covenants, and the abundance that I should be reaping, it's like, okay, that ain't matching my life.
That's not connecting.
It's not connecting. Something is wrong. So once you have a glimpse of that light, then it's kind of like, no, I want some more of that. I want to get some more of that. How do I get closer on that? And really diving into self-awareness, self-awareness, and really understanding myself, kind of like dating yourself, right?
I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah.
It's really like dating yourself, or like how some people say, like, love languages. No, honey, self-love languages, right? Are you spending some quality time with yourself? Are you affirming yourself? Are you gifting yourself? Are you taking yourself out on dates? Are you finding out, those questions that you ask everybody else, but don't ask yourself, So once I understood that, I feel like I'm rambling at this point, but once I understood that, I was able to kind of shine my light and kind of really own that light. And once you own your light, there's no turning back from that.
Hey, I want to talk about dating yourself. So we at Sober on Purpose, we're particularly geared to, after you get sober from whatever it is. It could be workaholism, it could be the traditional drugs and alcohol, it could be, codependency, all those types of things. Most folks don't know who they are. So how did you date yourself? How did you reconnect and say, I'm worth it?
Absolutely. Dating myself really means, one, shutting out, or not, I don't want to say shut out the world. I want to say that it's those things that, the hobbies that I love, like we have these hobbies that we never get around to doing because our life is so busy, or we're so, focused on other people's tasks. Well, it's hiking for me. It's listening to jazz. It's the drinking tea in the morning slowly and not being rushed. It's having a lovely morning routine to wake up to. It's telling yourself all the things that you want to hear, that I love you. I'm proud of you. I commit to you for this, that sort of thing, as well as writing down your goals for the future. Another thing that I did was get a book called 3,000 Things About Me. And it's really questions that you should ask to yourself, such as, what's your favorite hobbies, or what's some of your favorite movies, right? Or are you a cat or dog person, and why? That sort of thing. I know it sounds super silly, but when we go on dates with people, we ask these questions, and then sometimes we don't know the answers, right? We don't know the answers, or one thing that I like to ask my friends is what do you do to wind down? And some people were like, wind down? Like, I never wind down from my life. Well, one of my friends is like, she listens to she watches Census comedy to bring her to bring her down from a long day. Some people are like, oh, I just read a book. Well, how are you going to know these things if you don't ask yourself those things? So it's literally dating yourself, gifting yourself, going shopping for yourself. Some people like, I haven't shopped for myself in so long, or the thing for me is I would go to restaurants by myself. I would go to the movies by myself. I would go, to go see a art or museum exhibit by myself. Like, I don't need another person to be there. I love myself enough to love my company with myself. And I think one thing that COVID did was really have us sitting with ourselves. That the pandemic had us sitting with ourselves, and really had us like looking at ourselves in the mirror, like, okay, so this is really you. That sort of thing. So I think that a lot of the pandemic definitely helped people look at themselves and date themselves and really get back to loving on themselves. So yes, that's what dating looks like for me.
So you like hiking, you like going to movies on your own, which I do too, because I don't have to struggle with, do you want to see this? Maybe you like that, maybe you don't. I'll just go. Was there anything that you went, wow, we really like that? Are you sure? Was there anything that really surprised you?
I guess something that surprised me was traveling by myself. I would say that a lot of people's like, go do solo travel. Well, as a woman, we have to be so safe. We have to really look at our surroundings, really go to the places that we feel safe in. And sometimes it's just like, nah, I'm just gonna stay here. Well, that was one of the things that I fell in love with. Like it wasn't one of those things where I'm super scared to get out here. I was scared at the first time, but now it's like, okay, solo travel is okay. I just need to go to all the places that are safe for me. But like there's things. Don't go out your hotel room at a certain night. It's a different way to lock up your hotel room. That sort of thing.
Right.
But no, it's been great so far, really. And just I even pull yourself out of your comfort zone while doing those things. That's the thing. Sitting and eating by yourself, so many people cringe at that.
No.
And it's like, right?
No.
Don't cringe at it. It's good. It's good. It's good. And what I tell my clients as well is that you don't have to jump out there and just do everything, right? You can go and have a smoothie or a snack somewhere, and still have your phone out. But even with me, I still like to not have my phone out. I like to enjoy my food, enjoy the meal that I'm having while it's going to be there, but it's not like all into my phone because I still need time with myself. I still, bring my journal to write in and things of that nature. But it's all about loving on myself. And once you do that, I mean, the consequences of that is that you raise your standards in the dating world, right? Because if we're dating and I don't appreciate your company better than I appreciate your own company,
right.
It's not gonna work out.
Right. Absolutely. So what? I have so many questions, but what was the favorite? Do you have a favorite place that you went, or a favorite event where you went, I can't do this by myself?
Probably a festival, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
I feel like that's another level of going by yourself, right? Usually festivals is group trip. We're going with some friends, we're going with some girlfriends, we're going with some guy friends. It's going to be a whole group ordeal. But when you go by yourself to a festival, like you said, you're not tied down to anything. So I can go over here and mingle over here. I can go over here and mingle over here. I can meet new people over here. That was probably the biggest, I don't want to do this. I'm not. And then I left like with some really good friends. I left because I was able to connect and not have to think about the time. I was able to connect and not have to think about somebody else's feelings. I met some really good friends at the taco truck when we went to the taco festival. So that and actually another thing that I did is that I moved out of town. I moved out. So I'm originally, I lived in Atlanta for a while and I moved to Charlotte. So I did that on my own. So that kind of really took me out of my comfort zone and really allowed me to love on myself a lot more. Those yoga sessions with yourself in the morning and things of that nature. But yeah, definitely I would say a festival. After I went to the festival, I was like, okay, I can do anything now. Let's do it.
For people who are a little less bold,
right,
you would say go to Starbucks by yourself. You would say start small.
Absolutely, start very small. Start because we don't want it to be overwhelming to where you don't like it, right? So go to Starbucks by yourself. Even go to the mall by yourself. It doesn't have to be anything. Go to the store. Just enjoy time with yourself. But I do not mean to go grocery shopping by yourself because we go grocery shopping by ourselves all the time.
That's common.
I mean, right?
That's super common.
I mean, and go to the mall. Go somewhere that you just go to the library by yourself. Start, like you said, Starbucks is a good thing too.
Yeah.
Just start small, right?
Yeah.
Start small.
Well, and it's funny that you say that, because right after my divorce, I I went to London by myself. Now, my sister had a place there, and I stayed with her a little bit, but I went on and traveled some more without her. It was magical. And that's the first time I broke away. Now, I've since remarried, been married for 20 years, but it's the first time I broke away and went, this is really cool. This is lots of fun. I don't have to worry about somebody else. But I too would suggest, just like when you're dating somebody, you're not going to suddenly go away for a weekend with them. You're going to have coffee with
Right.
them. You might go out in a group with them. You know, you're going to test the waters, because
Exactly.
as Annie Lamont says, you know, my mind is kind of a crazy place. I'm not sure I want to go there alone all the time. It takes a little
Exactly.
getting used to. Well, so the premise of the book is knowing the queen from the princess. And
Absolutely.
when you began to lay that out, whereas the princess will say, this fits with the travel and the eating out by yourself, the princess will say, I'm a social butterfly and I want to be everywhere with everybody. But the queen says, no, I'm going to manage my time and energy. Can you tell us a little bit about the setup of the book and the division of queen and princess?
Absolutely. I so Crowned is my first book, and I really, really love the fact that we really can have this divide, right? I think that growth is looking at both, right? It's the yin and the yang, it's the darkness and the light, it's the toddler growing into the young adult, and the young adult growing into the grown woman. And it's always a trajectory, it's always a journey, right? So we start out just, naive and tender and innocent and so on and so forth, and then you really, these life experiences really take you to a next level. It has to take you to a next level. And that kind of talks about the princess and the queen energy, is that so many people want to just go straight for queen. I'm a queen, I'm a queen, I'm a queen. It's like, have you identified where your princess is showing? Have you identified where, you know you might not be doing things the right way? And for me, my princess is the things that they told me that a queen does, right? Like in the book, it talks about when I was younger, I used to have this tiara, and I would order my brothers around to be my servant, and I thought what that meant being a queen, when it's not, right? The princess analogy in the book is really that person inside of us that feels entitled. It's the person inside of us that wants to give ourselves to everybody. It's the person that can't say no. It's the person that thinks that someone's going to ride up on a shiny white horse and save them, when none of this is true, right? We have to go into this queen because it's the experiences that we have. It's the level up. It's the poise that a queen has, right? It's the learned behavior. It's the even with our traumas, right? We're not the same before the traumas and after the traumas. And so many people try to go back to who we were before the traumas, but it's no, like we have those traumas and now we have to heal with them and continue along our journey. Well, that's what that queen is. The queen is poised. It's knowledgeable. It doesn't need outside validation. It a queen swims in who she is, and it's super authentic, and she responds rather than reacts. And that's and those two different things, because a princess reacts, right? That means, okay, I'm triggered, you're gonna get the consequences of me being triggered. But a queen sits back and and asks better questions. What is my next best step here? How can I show this person that they triggered me, but not harm my I guess my the outside looking in, or harm my name inside of that, because that becomes more important. And with those two sides, we ebb and flow, right? When we're first trying to decide, okay, do I even want to be a queen, right? Because not everybody needs to be a queen. Or do I want to be this princess here, right? Who needs to show up right now? Who needs to show up? And even with me and my battle, because I think it's just an ongoing battle. Like, it's not heal. being healed is not a destination, right? We're always healing or learning, right? It's not always, oh, I've learned everything. It's an ongoing process. You should be a lifelong learner, just like you should be a lifelong being on a lifelong healing journey. So that Princess and Queen, it really just shows you where you currently are and just gives you a better example of where you can be.
I think one of the passages that you wrote that struck me the most was, beautiful is the woman in alignment with her divine assignment. And the princess has no idea what her assignment is. She's running around going, help me, damsel in distress. You're not doing what I need you to do, ordering my brothers around. For me, it was trying to get a man to fulfill the needs that I needed, those types of things. And the inner light, the dating yourself. Now, all of this was really hard won for you. And you talk about that in the book. A lot of our audience is going to come from that background. So without giving everything away, give kind of an overview of how you got this wisdom. It didn't just appear.
It did not just appear. Wow. So I said earlier that I grew up in a very thirsty for love home. And with that, I got into a domestic violence marriage for 7 years. And I think that in that marriage, I thought to myself, you know how we are our own best critic. I mean, our worst critic. I thought to myself, is this is the only love that I can possibly get. This is all that I'm worthy of. You would follow the lies or follow the manipulation that the person would go through. And now this person was physically, mentally, and emotionally abusive. But I stayed for 7 years, right? And looking at, like, while you're in it, you're just so angry at yourself, angry at your circumstances, just angry at just everything. And during that 7 years, it literally strips you of your identity. Just like with any addiction, it really just strips you of who you can possibly be, right? So like if you plant a flower in an environment that they cannot sustain in, you don't blame the flower, you blame the environment. So my environment was so toxic, but I was trying to grow. It's counterintuitive. We can't do that. So in that sense, I really had to understand what I needed. What did I want? Because this ain't it. This is not it. This is not it. And that first step is that self-honesty. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest with our current situation. If we're not honest with our current situation, we can't move forward. We can't be anything outside of our current situation, because if we're continuing in denial and saying, well, that ain't me, that's not, we can't grow from that. And it takes a portion of you, a large portion of you, to say, I'm going to look at myself and be honest with where I currently am, no matter how hard it was. So looking at myself with these bruises on myself, manipulated, just waking up and being sad and disappointed and let down every single day, I knew that God wanted more for me. So I had to say, God, I need to align my life with what you see for me. You said that I'm beautifully and wonderfully made. You said that I can have all the riches in the land. These two things aren't adding up. These two things aren't adding up. Well, step one, I had to leave that situation. I had to leave the toxic environment of what that was, that manipulative environment. And from there, it was literally picking yourself back up out of those trenches. And while, yes, you have your friends with you, and you can seek I saw therapy and so on and so forth, it was really me digging myself out of that every single day, right? It was focusing on what that day looked like. And honestly, sometimes it was focusing on what that hour looked like, right? How can I make the next best decision for myself and for my future with the next hour that I had? Because some days, the days be looking daunting. I got 24 hours. Okay, Even if I sleep 6, even if I sleep 8, I still got all these hours to fill my time. Even if
What am I going to
12
do?
hours, right? What am I going to do with the rest of these hours?
Yeah.
So what's the next best hour? What's the next? Okay, how do I get? And that's how you build that strength. You build that muscle up. I really had to dig myself out of that. I think I got back into school. My ex-husband didn't want me in school. He didn't want me working. He really just wanted me to be there for him. And I really had to dig myself out of that by myself. And I think once you do that, you are proud of yourself, right? I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you. You know, I didn't hear that from my parents. We wasn't a loving household. So I had to say that to myself. Another thing that I did after that is I had to tell myself I love you every single day.
Wow. How hard was that?
Hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. Have you ever tried that before? It's just
yes, the whole mirror exercise of saying I love you, you're beautiful, you know, and I'm going, well, there's 10 pounds over here and there's 2 pounds over there and all of that. So as I'm looking at you, you're using one of the things that we use in 12-step programs of 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 minute at a time, 1 second at a time. I can manage this. I can breathe through it. Yeah. But I'm looking at you going, beautiful, powerful, strong, well-spoken, well-educated woman. What would you say to the woman who says, I could never be that person? I'm stuck here financially. I'm stuck here emotionally. I just don't see myself that way.
Yeah. I would say it's all about your mindset, and you can do this. Honey, if I can do this, and I'm getting chills right now, but like if I can do this, because I was there, right? I didn't feel beautiful on the inside or outside. I didn't feel worthy of anything, right? Except for all the bad stuff that I received. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere in the world. I didn't feel like I knew myself. I felt like I failed too much to even have a better life. Just all of these different things. And even during this time, and I'll be transparent, I had negative coping mechanisms. We all have negative coping mechanisms, but it's how we come off on the other end. You can do it. I would say that you have to change your thinking. If the first thing that you say is, oh, I can't do that, you've already succumbed to failure before you even started, before you even tried. I just need you to try. Every single day, I need you to try and figure out what that why is. Figure out the why that's powerful. I don't mean a surface level why. Oh, I just want to, do something superficial. I mean, what is your deepest why? Right? Is it now? I don't want you to say, oh, it's my kids. No, I want you to say, I want to be healthy and here and happy for my great great grandchildren. That's what I mean. I want it to be a deep why. I want it to be a deeply seated why. Or even if I want to show the little girl inside of me that I can do it. Right? Yeah. And I know y'all talk about nurturing your younger selves. That helped me so much. Yeah. Nurturing that little girl that didn't get love at 8, or that little girl that didn't get love at 14, or that little girl that didn't get love at 20, or that little girl that didn't get love at 25. Nurturing those things over time just puts you in a better self, because sometimes we hold that little girl is following you around saying, you can't do this because I wasn't nurtured. And nobody loved me, so why should anybody love you? Yes. You gotta go back and nurture her and love her. And that's where that I love you comes from. So I hope I answered your question.
Oh yeah. And when you're talking about it, as a grown woman, you have the capabilities, but I really like your analogy of she's following you around going, you can't do that. We didn't get what we needed. Well, you can turn around and give it to her. You can take her out on a date. You can, as I was healing, I watched little girls. I'm like, what do? They dance. They, go up and hug everybody. And they ask all kinds of questions. Yes. I'm like, that's okay. You can take care of that little person. Now, you told me, not only do you have the letter from your mom in there, But this was really profound when we were talking earlier about your mom said this book was just not for you.
Yeah.
You writing this book. Would you be okay sharing with what she said?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, my mom, I told you before, my mom, I grew up in a single parent home, so it was just my mom, and she was also a workaholic because she had 3 kids that she needed to provide for. So she was always at work. We didn't have the best relationship because of that. I felt, unworthy because of that, and growing up, it's just like, okay, that's how you kind of had to do it, and honestly, the parent is growing as a child is growing, so like that sort of thing. But I remember coming in while writing this book. I remember going into her room and talking to her, and I was complaining about, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and just it was a me situation. And she stopped me and she was like, Zipporah, this is not about you. None of this is about you. It's not, writing this book is not about you. The life that you live, your choices, it's not about you. It's about the lives that you're going to save. It's about the voices that you're going to return to people who lost their voices when they were younger. It's the girls who look at you and think, wow, if she was like me when I was younger, now I can do this. I can be this confident person. It's those things. It's being the person you needed when you were younger. And after that, after I bawled my eyes out, right?
Absolutely.
Because it's so true. Like, honestly, I think that me writing this book, I didn't think how many lives that I would touch, because just some of the excerpts and people saying, hey, I had this too, this happened to me as well. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for this reminder. Man, you made me really think about myself and how I treat myself and handle myself. I didn't know how much that was going to impact so many women. I mean, of course, it was the reason why it was one of the reasons why I did it, but it's also sharing my story. It's literally just sharing my story. I just want to get my story out. But I didn't know how much it was going to help. And I think in that case, she really just reminded me of who I'm doing this for and who I continually do this for. I love waking up and being selfless. I love waking up and working on my business and helping women find emotional intelligence and their confidence and their voice and that they aren't their mistakes. I love doing this. And the reason why I included her note in the back is I was actually finishing up this book, and I went through some personal papers, and there was this 4-page letter that my mom wrote me in 2000, I believe it was 2004. And it was right before I was about to graduate from high school. And y'all, I had no emotional intelligence at all. Okay. I was so angry. I was so mad at myself. I was so mad at my mom, so mad at my upbringing, so mad at my choices. I just did not feel like I was going to have a productive life. So I showed that through anger and remorse and resentment and bitterness. And she basically said, if, honey, you don't change your life around, if you don't take these principles out of this letter, then you're not going to amount to anything. And I really had to sit down. You know how moms are always writing their own little, like, okay, mom, you was right about everything. Thank you so much. But she literally, like, honestly, I feel like the letter was a great synopsis to the book, because she enveloped all of those different things. Now, I wrote this book in 2016. She wrote me that letter in 2004. But some of the things I wrote in this book, without seeing this letter before, it really tied in. So I really incorporated that just for the women who they didn't have a mom to write them that letter.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I was going to say. We all talk a lot about being fatherless and not being fathered, but some folks were not mothered. And the love and the intensity in that letter, it is a great follow-up to everything that you talked about in Crowned. And we've only scratched the surface. So for all our listeners, there's a lot about gratitude. The separation between queen and princess is eye-opening. Her story is harrowing, so be prepared for that. But most of us have walked through something like that. And then this tie-up of being mothered yet again after having been, walked by sister hand through the book.
Yeah.
Just it's phenomenal. And I'm really tell us a little bit more about your work and the new book, because there's a new one out.
Yes, thank you so much for saying that. You were super sweet. So what I do is I teach emotional intelligence to women, mostly for high performing women. A lot of us high performers, we sometimes do it because we feel like our validation is connected to our work, or our validation is connected to our productiveness. And with that, we are this overall people pleaser, role enforcer. We live for other people, and it's really bringing that back to the soft you, right? The feminine you, the nurturing you. You don't have to be super aggressive or even assertive. Like, you can definitely get your point across. And I think that goes in with using that nurturing spirit, because all women have nurturing spirits, right? It's in us, right? Going back and using that on ourselves, and going back and getting the principles of forgiveness, getting the principles of setting proper boundaries, not only with your family, with your kids, with your work life, and most importantly with yourself, right? And on the forgiveness piece is forgiving yourself. We forget that it's forgiving others as well as forgiving ourselves. Sometimes we don't forgive ourselves, so we stay in that cycle, in that loop of princesshood, and it's just like, no, you have to forgive yourself so you can move forward. So we talk about those things. It's also we talk about having a routine, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a high performing woman, some women don't have routines, and I'm like, girl, how do you survive? I need my routine.
Right.
I need my routine. So I kind of teach you. So I teach women how to have that, as well as to get their voice back. We lose our voice so much. I don't know about you or anybody else's household, but my household was a household where you gonna be seen but not heard.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's how it started. So I wouldn't speak up in class. I wouldn't speak up in meetings. I didn't think that my voice was something that needs to be heard. But I'm giving that power back to women. I'm really just saying, be yourself. Be
Mm-hmm.
exactly who you want to be. Live as ferocious and bold as you want to be. And people are going to love you. Your tribe is going to love you, right? Just be who you are, because that fake, people can smell that fake from a mile away. Yeah. You're not helping yourself. You're not helping yourself. Fake it till you're making is lost. You're not helping yourself when you do that. So just be yourself. But you have to know yourself first. So that's where that self-awareness comes from. So that's where book 2 comes in. So book 2 is called Reclaim Your Reign.
Mm-hmm.
An emotional intelligence guide for women. And that really just says, from crowned, you unleashed yourself, and now it's talking about, okay, reclaim your reign. I also wrote this in the during the pandemic, which was crazy. I had time, apparently.
Right.
So reclaim your reign is really just reclaiming that power, reclaiming that voice, reclaiming yourself. So it's actually in workbook form. So everything that I kind of went over, so everything that I went over, the self-awareness piece, the forgiveness piece, the boundaries piece, even writing a manifesto, is all in there. So it breaks it down to where you can really do it for yourself. It's kind of like it walks you through reclaiming your reign yourself, right? And I do have services and programs to go along with that, but I definitely wanted to make sure that without my services, without any of those things, you can literally walk yourself through it. And I felt like that can touch more people in a sense. And it really just goes through 8 steps. I do have a curriculum of 8 steps of emotional intelligence, and we just go through it and hammer it out. And by the end of that book, you are setting better boundaries. Not only are you setting better boundaries, you're enforcing those boundaries. You know who you are. You know what you want to achieve. You have forgiven the people in the world. You have nurtured your younger self. You have created a manifesto and created a routine, and so on and so forth. So I like to say it just sums up all what you need from emotional intelligence.
It's all right there. So
Exactly.
you do coaching, you do coursework, how does that look if somebody wanted to work with you?
Absolutely. So if somebody wanted to work with me, what you would just go on my website and then you'll fill out an inquiry form. So once the inquiry form is filled out, I reach out to you and we kind of see what's the best fit. I firmly believe that you choose the people that you work with, and I do as well. Like everybody's not for everybody, but
Mm-hmm.
because I in my coaching sessions, like I might seem super sweet right now, but I'm going to push you, right? I'm not here to make you uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I'm not here to make you comfortable. I'm going to make you the most uncomfortable as possible because that's where the best growth is. Wherever vulnerability and uncomfortableness and wherever those two things are, and trust, of course, then we can start getting into the nitty gritty. If you are able to help guide, if you're teachable, then let's go, because as you know, the journey of healing, the journey of becoming the person that you always wanted to become is not an easy one, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I am empathetic because I've been there, but I do help women to see themselves outside of themselves. So really those things, and then we'll start a program what looks best for you. My programs are, like I said, I have 8 steps to emotional intelligence, but we can always, like I say, if you are a little bit more well versed in emotional intelligence or more well versed in confidence, we're only going to talk about the things that you certainly need. So I customize all my plans to my clients because all my clients are different, right? All my clients have different needs, they have different desires, they have different wants. So that's what we kind of do in that first call, which is the discovery session, is just figure out what do you need and how can I help you get there.
And Crowned kind of lays the groundwork, and then Unleashed really lays out those steps so they can pick those up to start with, or they can come immediately to you if they know that they're just ready. And
Absolutely.
you guys will talk and see if this is a good fit, and no harm done if it isn't, if I'm hearing it correctly. You're just getting a feel for each other.
Absolutely. And then, like you said, no harm, no foul, because even in that first session, we're going to talk about some things, right? We're going to talk about some things. We're going to, I'm going to get you to open up and help you to understand what you need. And you just really have to decide if you want me to be that person to guide you through it. Or if it's not going to be me, then I can send you to my other network of people. I've had males come to me and I can send them over to a male therapist that I have in my network and so on and so forth. So it's really just, I want people to get what they need, right? So many people are lacking the things that they need. It is a tough spot to be in the world, right? The just feeling unworthy, the feeling of the need to not be here anymore, and so on and so forth. Just a feeling of being lost, right? And we can have that discovery session because you're really going to discover something by the end of that session. So it's really, do you want to work with me and get all of this for the next 8 weeks? And
Right.
and at that point, if you do choose me, then we're going to create an action plan that you're going to be working on. And every single session that you have with me, you got homework, right? I'm not the person that's like, no, we got homework. I'm following up on the homework. Before every meeting, you're going to have a pre-meeting questionnaire about how has our time between meetings gone. It's real deal. It's real deal Holyfield over here. We are going to be working towards something, and then at the end of that, you're going to evaluate yourself on what you put into the work as well as what you got out of the work.
So
I'm here for transformation.
I love the question. You put this question in the book. What would you do to be free? And that's really a lot of what you're talking about with the queen and the princess is the princess says, I'm not willing to be free. I'm going to be, dependent. And you've lived it, you've walked it, you did Crowned and now Unleashed. You've got the emotional intelligence piece in there. It's the whole package to show up and say, I am going to retrieve my voice. I am going to retrieve my power. I am going to be there. So I guess the people who wouldn't want to work with you are ones who want to continue playing small and want to continue to back up into their trauma and define themselves that way
Absolutely.
instead
That's
of
powerful that you
busting
said that.
out. Instead of busting out. So this has been so much fun. It was so much fun to read the book, to talk to you earlier. We're going to put all the links below on how you reach Zipporah Monique. And then, of course, they're both out on Amazon, or you can get them on your website, is my understanding.
So they're both out on Amazon as well as my website, absolutely, which is zipporahmonique.com. Like you said, we're gonna put all of it down there for you.
Yeah, we'll put it all down there. Now, the one thing she doesn't have that y'all should encourage her to do is she doesn't have an audio, and you can see how powerfully she speaks. She needs to read her own audio, put it out there for those of us that's really all how we read. So that type of thing. So any other thing you want to give as words of wisdom as you wrap up, and anything else?
Yes, my favorite thing to remind my clients, to remind anybody who talks to me, is that questions are important. You said this earlier, Tanya, that as a young girl, like how young girls, they always ask the questions, being inquisitive. Never lose that, right? Because when you start asking better questions, you're going to get better answers. And one of the questions that I always like to kind of leave my clients with is, in what areas or in what ways are you going to live a more bold and courageous life? And if you answer that, then you can really set out and do that every single day.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So again, all the links are below. You can learn how to date yourself. You can learn how to be emotionally intelligent with yourself. You can learn to ask the right questions, because if you're not asking the right questions, you're headed down probably the wrong road. So Zipporah, I really appreciate you being here with us on Sober on Purpose. And I look forward to having you back, because I'm going to have to read the next book so that we can talk about that one.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's been an amazing time.
Awesome.
You, beloved listener, are creative, resourceful, and whole. Do you want to add more purpose to your sober journey? Do you want to make room for the new and make your dreams a reality? Apply today for a dream session. Go to tanyagioia.com. That's TANYAGIOIA.com and apply today. Let's get you dreaming about your new purpose.